What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American here today to react and learn about 6 lies that America told me about Europe. So, to be honest, when I first saw this video title, I felt a mixture of emotions, like confusion, denial, then betrayal, and now I'm curious. I'm really curious. What has my American upbringing been lying to me about Europe? I say all the time that Americans, we really don't know much about other countries. Okay, fine. Whatever, we're ignorant. But it doesn't even stop there, apparently. But we're spreading lies about what Europe and other countries are like. And that's not okay. So today, I'm very curious to see what these 6 lies America told me about Europe are. This is a video by International Carl. From what I understand, this is an American who has moved to the UK in Europe and has, figured out and realized these things that we were taught as Americans growing up that just aren't true about Europe. So let's take a look.
This video, we're going to talk about a couple lies that the United States pushes into us as Americans growing up. And let's talk about it right now.
Okay.
Let's get to it right now. Lie number 1. This one is a funny one to me because in the United States, it's always, I don't care if you're a Democrat, I don't care if you're a Republican, I don't care if you're independent, I don't care where you're at on the political spectrum. You're always going to have a politician telling you that
they hate our freedoms, our freedom of religion, our freedom of speech, our freedom to vote and assemble and disagree with each other.
That's right. They hate us for our freedoms.
They hate us for our freedoms. That's an interesting one. I will admit, kind of like how he showed a little clip there of George Bush, one of our past presidents, talking about this. This isn't something that would be at the top of my list of what, that I hear all the time. That, I don't know, Europe or the world hates our freedoms, but I've definitely heard that before. I can't say I've personally ever gave that too much credit. It's like, it almost sounds egotistical, like, oh, they're all jealous of us. Like, yeah, I've definitely heard that one before. Where it's almost saying that, yeah, around the world, over there in Europe, they're not free. They don't have freedom, and they hate us because we're free. We're obsessed with freedom in America, that's for sure. So, yeah, you know what? Yeah, this is a good one. It's one that I haven't really thought about that much, but I've definitely heard this.
Can you believe that? As if nowhere else in the world has any freedoms.
Yeah.
Like Europe. In Europe, they act like if you come to Europe, there's just no freedoms. What freedoms do I not have here in Europe?
Yeah, he's definitely right. It's more phrased in the sense that in America we say, oh, we are the land of the free. We are just have it so good. We've set everything up so perfectly. We have the correct government and this and that, and our freedom is like no one else. And it's more like that rather than, yeah, Europe. Europe is not free there. No. It's more that it's more said America is great rather than those guys are bad. But it's all the same, really, isn't it?
As these are Western democracies with Western values and culture that has been exported to the United States. And it's become its own thing.
Yeah. I think a lot of Americans would be really shocked at how much other cultures around the world have influenced us and how much stuff comes from other countries and ideas and inventions and influence. A lot of Americans don't even realize that and just think it was all created here in America out of nothing.
I'm not saying one is better than the other, but freedoms exist here. I'm still scratching my head. What freedom do you have in America that I don't have here? Let's talk about freedom of speech, for example.
Yeah, okay. So in America, we have like the amendments, we have our Bill of Rights. When we talk about our freedoms, we're usually talking about our rights. And I think I even saw a little discussion about this very recently. It's a very American idea to be like, my rights, my freedom. Like, and it's like, okay, calm down. Yes, it's like, so, yeah, this idea that other countries don't have freedoms or rights and that we're special and that that's very ignorant for sure and definitely something you heard growing up in America.
In America, you have freedom of speech. In the UK, for example, you don't have freedom of speech. What you do have is freedom of expression.
Huh,
Slight
okay.
different tweak, but let's give you an example. In America, you can be as racist as you want to somebody. You can walk
Right.
up to me, walk up to any black person and say the N word all day long if you want.
That's true.
Where in the UK, you really couldn't do that because at some point you will cross a fine line of inciting racial hatred.
That's so there is a difference here between freedom of speech versus expression. He's totally right. Now, there is a boundary in the United States if you walked up to somebody and you were harassing them, even just verbally, you can go to, you can get in trouble. You can be sued, you can go to jail, like probably not to the extent as in Europe. It's probably not as easy in the United States to charge someone for harassment, but to say like it does exist. Like you can pretty much say anything that's true, but there has to be a line. I think our line in America is way further off than in Europe by the sound of it. It's way further.
So if you define your freedoms based on your ability to call somebody an N-word or call some Asian American some type of offensive word, by all means, you can have that freedom. I don't need that freedom.
That's true. I mean, he makes a great point, like this observation. For a lot of Americans, the freedom to say anything, even horrible, despicable, hatred things, a lot of Americans would say, yeah, that's a freedom we want. Whereas it sounds like in Europe, it's not. It's like no, there's no need for that. Like why that shouldn't be a protected right to hate and to spread hatred and violent rhetoric and that kind of thing. I totally understand that.
But other people in America talk about it like freedom for guns. Ooh, guns, guns, guns. They want to take your guns. Well, let's see. Here in the UK,
Yeah.
can you have guns? Yes. Can you have a
Oh.
rifle? Yes.
Okay.
Can you have a handgun? Yes. What does the Second Amendment say in the United States? It's highly regulated. So what is it here in the UK? Guess what? It's highly regulated.
Yeah, I mean, this is true as well, myself included. I don't really know what the gun laws really look like in a lot of other countries around the world. From what I understand, in America, we have some of the most, I don't know, open gun laws in the world. It's extremely easy to get a gun. You don't really need any kind of license or registration for it. You don't need permits in a lot of states to carry it. And so is that a good thing? Well, I think America statistically has a lot of gun crime, much higher incidences of gun crime, shootings than other developed countries. So that kind of speaks for itself in a way, doesn't it?
There's lots of regulations around what type of gun, where you have to store that gun, where you have to keep the ammunition, what do you have to do for the maintenance of that gun.
Yeah.
Highly regulated. So you still have the freedom to have a gun.
Yeah, which I told. Yeah, I think a lot of Americans are confused about that because we hear about how open our gun laws are. So we kind of get the idea that in other countries, oh, it must be you must not be able to get a gun because everyone's getting so mad at our guns and they're mad that we can own guns. It's like, no, that's not it. People are upset that it's so easy to own guns in America. There's no regulation hardly. There's no tests. There's no quality control. There's some background checks. We do at least do that, but yeah, you can get guns in many places in Europe by the sound of it. It's more regulated. It's more difficult, which is a good thing.
So if you define your freedoms as being able to have as many guns as you want in America, okay, fine, no argument. But I think that's a lie that they sell, that nobody here has any guns. Not true. Number 2, social housing is a bad thing. It's something that you're supposed to segregate from the rest of the population. So, for example, in America, especially in LA where I'm from, or Southern California where I'm from, social housing, Section 8. Well, that's usually in a separate side of the city, not being seen. I don't even know where it's at, because where I grew up was nothing but beautiful homes, single-family homes, no social housing.
So it sounds like he's talking about welfare, social welfare in America, giving housing to people and families that can't afford to pay rent, they can't afford to live, or they'd be homeless, and the government provides housing, which is called social housing. I have to admit, I think like a lot of Americans, I'm privileged enough to not really know too much about this social housing, but his point is I think that it's shunned in America. It's really shunned and looked down upon, and kind of cast over to the side, put in areas of cities nobody wants to go to, and stuff like that.
Where here in the UK, just in Europe in general, it's all sprinkled around you. For example, here in the UK, I live in a beautiful big house, beautiful executive style estate. I have a nice car, but guess what? On this estate and on several new estates, they all have social housing, and they do things that are different in the United States.
Yeah, again, I don't know the most about this. I've been lucky in that sense, but he's definitely right. You don't see like housing for people in need, let's say. You don't see that kind of thing like just in the middle of a city or in nice parts of the town or city. America definitely segregates those over to certain areas, definitely 100%. He is absolutely right about that. So the idea that in Europe it's more equally spread out, where it's just sprinkled, as he said, among the community to make it more normalized, I guess, is the point. More and not feel like you're an outcast or something, just for being in a difficult life situation. I think that's fantastic, and I've actually never heard of that before.
Or that they do here in the UK, that they wouldn't do or they don't do in the United States. You can be on social housing, but guess what? You can partially own that house. So that way you can be on the track. So you can buy 10% of the home, 20% of the home, 50% of the home, and try to get all the way up to 100% of the home like me or you do. So that's a different strategy that they do, so that social housing is good for everybody. Because
so in Europe, there's a track to eventually pay for and own this house that the government is providing for you. That's fantastic. That makes so much sense. That makes too much sense. Why wouldn't we do that? I've never heard of that either.
Because that way the kids get to interact with all people from all social and religious economic backgrounds. Mm-hmm. And you as an adult get to work and meet and mingle with people from all different backgrounds. I think the neighborhoods are better for it. They're safer for it. Less crime, because guess what? If you're in an executive style estate, well, guess what? You want to keep your home value high. You want to keep it nice and looking new. And that's going to put pressure on the social housing to also keep their house nice, keep the estate looking nice and new and fresh. So I think that...
Wow. Yeah, I've never heard of this. Never thought about it like this before. I think this should be much more of an issue in the United States, much more talked about, but it's not. So I'm really glad he's bringing this up, because it's not talked about. In America, welfare, social housing, government assistance, it's really quite taboo for, and he's absolutely spot on about that. That it shouldn't be. That's actually a bad thing and makes things worse.
That's a myth. And I think that's something that should be revisited in the United States. Number 3.
Yeah.
In America, they teach you this, that somehow being a hard worker means coming in early, staying late, never taking a vacation, and definitely don't call in sick.
Yeah.
That is like
Yeah.
the biggest mistake you could ever make.
What do you mean? There's another way? What do you mean? What do you mean? That's just normal work life, right? Right? No, I think I've heard about this kind of thing before. In maybe other videos, I've heard about this, where it's like, apparently, in America, the way we address work-life balance, benefits, is crazy and unhealthy, and we don't even know it compared to other countries.
All you can make. I'll give you an example. When I was working for a large airframe manufacturer in the United States, I remember a friend of mine, we wanted to take 2 weeks off and go do something. Our managers looked at us like we were crazy because we wanted to have the audacity to take 2 weeks off.
Yeah.
And mind you, we didn't take any days off prior to that. We just wanted to take 2 weeks off in a year so we could go do something.
Yeah. No. I mean, in America, you have a certain number of sick days, you have a certain number of vacation days. It's usually 2 weeks out of the year. So that would have been his entire vacation allotment for the entire year. And your employer has a say in all of this because there's very little government oversight in our public companies. So the employer gets to decide your benefits, gets to decide, no, you can't. 2 weeks off? No, we need you here. We need you. And that's the end of it. And it's a mess, really. And I think a lot of Americans are not very happy in life because work is a large part of your life. Kind of like what he's saying.
They were like, no, rejected, slim that down to a week. And I'm thinking, isn't that my time off to relax, to recharge my battery so I can come back to work? No.
Yeah, and when you live in America, when you grow up in America, you eventually learn this. Like, I'm actually surprised he even tried to get 2 weeks off, because most Americans, it's ingrained in us at this point. Don't even bother. Don't even bother asking for 2 weeks off unless unless it's like 3 years in advance, then maybe.
I think minds and hearts have changed a little bit in the United States back from when I started working, back in the early 2000s, or mid 2000s, I should say. But that was a faux pas. Well, here in the United Kingdom and here in Europe, for example, it's encouraged to take time off. You get 20, 25 plus days off in mostly all European countries. I think by law...
What? Encouraged to take time. No. Wow, this is a pretty eye-opening video, actually. This is pretty good. I could see, they should encourage it. They should encourage the employees to be happy, to be content, to take time off for, wellness. I've heard in America we live to work. And in other parts of the world, you work to live. I think that's the saying. We spend our purpose in life is to work. Whereas for maybe European countries and citizens, you're working so that you can enjoy life. It's a very different mindset.
In the European Union, you have to have 20 days off. So it's encouraged to take time off because either you use it or you lose it.
Wow.
And for example, I think
I have never been encouraged to take time off.
Sweden, if I can find the article, it's on the screen now. But if not, Sweden is actually doing a trial where they're reducing the work hours to 6 hours to see if it increases productivity.
Wow.
Because employers are seeing that the employees are more rested and more focused when they come back to work.
Right. Imagine that. It makes so much sense. But in America, it's more, you need to show how tired and how hardworking you are, how much you stay after the boss leaves, how early you get to work. how you're running yourself into the ground, killing yourself, trying to work, work, work. That's how you get, how you succeed and get promotions in America. It's not healthy at all, and it's obviously got to be a detrimental to your performance.
4, America sells you this, that capitalism and consumerism go hand in glove. It's like this cycle. You have to work to buy, to work again to pay for what you buy, to buy some more stuff, to then work again and go down this continuous loop of working to live. And in Europe, one of the things that I find, I think is a beauty and a benefit of working and living in Europe is that there's more of a work-life balance, as I just talked about in point number 3.
Yeah, this really overlaps with point number 3 that he's talking about. I've heard a bit about this, that in Europe there's a much better work-life balance, and we're just running ourselves into the early grave, working our lives away with no happiness in America. But that's just normal. It's not, it's almost like, this is starting to change, but no one was really upset about this in America because it was so normal. And just finally now, in the modern day, are people finally starting to be like, this sucks. I'm not happy, and my employer, my benefits aren't good, and I get to enjoy 2 days off a week, barely, the weekend. Yeah, this is a really good point. It deserves to have, he's kind of overlapping here with 2 of the points, but it kind of deserves it.
Is that you have time off to actually do stuff. And you don't just have this endless working to consume. Don't get me wrong. We go on vacation, so we're consuming what I would call, we are consuming experiences, but we don't live to work, we work to live.
Oh, exactly. There it is. There's the phrase. Why do we all know this phrase? Because it's so true, I guess.
And that is a benefit of living in Europe, and I think that is great. And I think the U.S. sells a lie to its people by telling them that you have to work hard to then buy stuff and never do anything. Number 5.
Interesting.
Which kind of ties into the first one I said, but it really is on the Republican right side in America.
Okay.
They always preach, especially during the Obamacare era, 2012, was all about these death panels. They literally produced a video where they were throwing grandma off a cliff because of social medicine.
Make no mistake about it. President Obama and the Democrats who supported Obamacare began throwing seniors off the cliff back.
The evil.
Oh my God! You know, I got to admit, this was the Obama era. It's been a while now. I guess I was pretty young back then, sorta. I don't know everything that he's actually talking about here. This man is obviously a little more proactive in American politics and a bit more opinionated on things. So I think, honestly, this is like a perspective or a issue with healthcare that I'm not sure I even know that much about.
Of social medicine, that you were going to have death panels if you got sick. I mean, how?
That does sound familiar. Actually, that word. I haven't heard that in a while, but the death panels. I don't know how old this video is, but this is starting to sound a little familiar, actually.
Ridiculous of a lie that I mean, it's a bold-faced lie. I've lived here 11, 12 years. I have yet to ever see a death panel.
I'm not sure what a death panel is. I think this was a lot more of an issue, again, like, I don't know, 8, 12 years around Obama, but it might be a panel where if Obama was trying to expand Americans' access to healthcare, and some healthcare provided by the government, Obamacare, and maybe critics thought, oh, if we give too many people healthcare, there's not going to be enough room for everybody in the hospitals, so we're going to have panels, death panels, to decide who has to live or die, because we won't be able to take care of everyone, because everyone will have too much access to healthcare. I don't know if I have that right, That I could be completely wrong. That's the only thing coming to mind.
Known some older people. I know some younger people. I know myself. You can walk into any hospital in any country in Europe and there's not a single death penalty. What do you expect them to say? Oh, sorry, you had a heart attack last year, Mr. Carl, but since you had one last year, we're not going to treat you for this heart attack because the panel has refused your care.
I see. So he's talking about with American healthcare insurance, their insurance companies or whoever is operating these death panels, hospitals, they're all working for a profit. And if they see that you have some pre-existing conditions, that you are predisposed to, I don't know, die early or not do well to treatment, to save money, they might just refuse you and say, no, you had a heart attack. You're on death's door. Why should we waste our resources on you? I see. That's what he's talking about.
On a side note, you kind of already have that in America. You just have it through the insurance companies because that's what they do.
Yes.
They decide not to cover you.
Yes, I was just thinking that. Yes, absolutely. We already kind of have that because insurance companies can decide on a case-by-case basis if you are covered, if your ailment is covered or not, especially if you have kind of a particular ailment, a certain type of cancer or disability. It's not covered or in your network or all these crazy things that ultimately the American healthcare companies just somebody somewhere in a boardroom just kind of decides.
They say it's a pre-existing condition. I don't think you can do that anymore, but they'll say that, or they'll find a way to deny coverage. They'll make it so high to call.
So I don't know if we're getting off track a little bit. I think the point of this, the lie here, the lie is that healthcare is acceptable in America and that socialized healthcare, government-funded healthcare is very dangerous and very bad. That's the lie. The lie is that America, our healthcare situation is good. It's not. And there's so much we could learn from European-style healthcare systems. This is a huge one. I totally agree.
Cost to do it that you have to do it out of pocket. And guess what? Now you're bankrupt. So that loops right back to number one. How are you free if you have to live with the pressure of going bankrupt and not being able to pay your bills? Because guess what? You have the audacity to break your hip,
right?
Get sick. I don't know. You pick it. So those are the 5 things that I think that the United States lies or misleads its people on purpose to further whatever big business or whatever political agenda that they have to the people. Yeah. I'm going to leave you with a bonus one.
Okay. This has been very good so far. Very, very good conversation. It's very good to discuss these type of things. And obviously his experience leaving America, living in the UK, living in Europe, has really opened his eyes. And I love it.
Which is kind of strange if you look at it. Because number 6 is this. In America, every day, all students around the nation get up every morning and say the Pledge of Allegiance. You pledge yourself and align yourself to the United States flag. And
I think this came up in another video a while ago, that Americans don't realize how strange it is that we do our Pledge of Allegiance every day. As children, we don't even understand what we are saying. Truly. I didn't understand what I was saying, what it really meant, what I was pledging, or what the ramifications of that. So if we're going to have a pledge, you probably shouldn't be making children who can't even decide if they want to do it or not. You know, that's the disturbing part.
To the republic for which it stands. Now, that's not something that's common in Europe.
Wow. In
many Western countries. I don't know of any other Western country that makes its kids get up every morning. I do know of one back in 19 1938, 1942-ish time, those kids used to get up and actually pledge allegiance to their flag and to their Führer. But I don't know if that.
It's definitely sketchy, for sure. And most Americans don't even know it's strange. Like, I didn't know growing up if other countries did this. Maybe I kind of assumed every child around the world did this. But this is probably one of the stranger things about America that we don't talk about.
That's something we should necessarily be doing. Don't get me wrong, I love my country. I'm very patriotic about it. I love the 4th of July for all its. My country is never perfect, but I think it can get better. But that's mine. Hit me in the comments. Tell me what you think. And
Yeah, that was great. Yeah, I think he's right. You want to be like supportive as an American, supportive of your country and patriotic. And if you were to go in front of everyone and be like, let's get rid of our patriotic Pledge of Allegiance. Let's get everyone be like, hey, what's wrong with this guy? He hates America. It's like, I don't know if we can have a civil discussion around that if we're ready for that, but this is great. Again, this was by International Carl, and what a great set of thoughts that he just put on video. Great insights that he's gotten as an American exploring Europe and the UK. I thought this was so insightful, so great conversation. And it opened my eyes to quite a few different issues that as an American I don't really think about usually. So this was great. Anyway, if you enjoyed this as well, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment with your thoughts. If you're in Europe, if you give your opinion, your perspective on these 6 lies America teaches us, Americans, about Europe and what you think about that. That'd be awesome to get that perspective. And if you're interested in more videos like this, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching and see you next time.